Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to the audience. Dr. Nobre, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Wonderful. So let's start. We have a great panel, but let me first launch the day 4 of LIAMforum. This is day 4 of a spectacular event so far. Today we have 4 amazing sessions, starting with the one you'll be watching in a second, the Amazon in the Anthropocene. This is followed by a session on mentoring and being a mentee, which is an important skill for young people to have. Then we go to a panel on the north of Canada and the northern parts of the world, all the way far away from the Amazon, but again with similar challenges. The following panel is on a subject that's very important, but very few people know about, which is on metallurgy and how do you process minerals. And every bit of metal that you have goes through this process, and there's extraordinarily interesting careers in that field. The next session is on regeneration and rehabilitation, and this is presented by an NGO that specializes in that. Again, will be fascinating discussions during that panel. The next panel is on networking and connecting, which is again a very important skill nowadays for people that are trying to build up their careers. Having the ability to network and connect will accelerate their progress and allow them to be more effective around the world, trying to make the world a better place. And we close LIAMforum 2023 with a panel with Canada's Minister of Energy and Resources, Jonathan Wilkinson, together with a number of young people. And we will be discussing during that session the challenges we face in the industry, where young people, although there are many jobs that are that are available, young people generally do not have an interest, primarily because they do not know about the career opportunities in those sectors. And the last, there'll be a small session at the end where we'll wrap up the findings of LIAMforum. So with that, I'll come back to the conference and we'll formally open up this panel. Last year, we did not have a separate session on the Amazon, and the Amazon is a hugely important ecosystem around the world. Some people describe it as the lungs of the world. And on this panel, we are honored by the presence of Dr. Carlos Nobre, who will be delivering a keynote presentation in a few minutes, followed by a conversation by the distinguished panel. So what I will ask the panel to do, starting with Carlos Nobre, is for a minute or two to describe who they are. And I'm going to ask everybody if they can start telling about yourself when you were a young person, you were 18 or 20 starting your career, for young people to understand that although they are anxious and they feel confused today as to what they'll be doing in life, none of us are doing now what we thought at 18, 19, we will be doing. And this is part of growing up. And today's world is truly exciting because you have access to so much more information, and it's also scary because you have so much information, so many choices, but the ride is a lot of fun forward. So please, Carlos Nobre, let's start.
Yes, thank you very much. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all. I will be very brief. I was very lucky when I was 20 years old. I was doing engineering. And then with colleagues, classmates, we went to the Amazon and spent 2 weeks in the Amazon, 1971. And then 1972, I went with my classmates again to the Amazon. So I got to know the Amazon when deforestation was almost zero. The forest was all protected, the beautiful rivers. So that was when I fell in love with the Amazon. I said, I have to work in the Amazon, with the Amazon. So then I finished, worked as an engineer for 2 years, did PhD in natural science, meteorology, and then came back in 1983 to Brazil and worked since 1983, today, mostly in science related to the Amazon. So that was the quick history of my career.
Obrigado. We'll continue with Jana, please.
Sure. Good day, everybody. I'm Jana Bell, and I'm the founder and president of Amazon Rainforest Conservancy. We're a registered Canadian charity doing conservation work in the Peruvian Amazon rainforest. It's a big understatement to say, when I was your age, if someone told me this is what I would be doing, I would not have believed them at all. I started off as an English major at university, but after 2 years of Chaucer and Shakespeare, I was miserable. So I switched to psychology. But even there, when I reached my final year, I struggled to find a thesis topic that interested me. I was always fascinated by birds, and I recalled a professor at the university who specialized in bird research. So I approached him about being my thesis advisor. However, he told me that due to my lack of science and biology background, no, this was not an option for me, and I had to do my thesis on a topic relating to psychology, which I did. But I also discovered I did not enjoy doing research, so pursuing a master's degree was not my next step. Once I graduated, I was left directionless. So I ended up going back to my summer job, which was cutting grass at a cemetery. And there a coworker suggested to me, you should pursue a career in human resources because you like people. And I thought, okay, that sounds okay. So I went back to school for a year. And then I spent the next years working as a human resources advisor at a big bank. And this lasted until I decided to be a stay-at-home mom. Fast forward to my 40s, when I found myself traveling to Peru and the Amazon rainforest, and that trip changed my life. And there isn't time for me to tell you that story right now, but if you're interested, there's a short version on my Liam profile page. What I hope the impact of my story for you is this. It's okay not to have it all figured out. At your age, I had no idea what my passion was, what my purpose was. And then it's okay to start down one path and then take a totally different turn. And you will get stuck and think nothing is happening in my life. But have faith and patience. Opportunities have a funny way of appearing out of nowhere. Doors will open. You just have to have the courage to go through them. And just to wrap up, I have to tell you, one of my conservation efforts today focuses on promoting the reproduction of macaws. We install nesting boxes to offset the loss of the natural habitats of these beautiful birds. So I found my way back to birds after all.
Thank you, Jana. That's wonderful. Ruth, please.
For having me here. My name is Ruth Nogueron. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening to all of you. I am a senior associate at the World Resources Institute. I've worked here for more than 20 years. I'm part of the forest program. But when I was a recent high school graduate, I also wasn't sure what I wanted to be. In fact, I love history. And so I ended up going 1 year to archaeology school in my native Mexico. Like Jana, I also wasn't sure what it was, what I wanted to do. I tried psychology as well. And I tried literature as well. And so a couple back then, twists and turns, I ended up enrolling in the natural sciences and biology specifically in my university. And my reasoning was that, while I tried to figure out what I want to do with my life, I might as well just learn how the world, the biological, the natural world works. And I stayed there. When I finished my bachelor's, as Jan as well, two of my college professors recommended me to work with a consulting company who was doing an evaluation of protected areas in Mexico. And so that's, how my career started in this. And I loved every part of it. I think I was fortunate to, run into people who was willing to help me and opened doors for me. And it's okay not to know what you want to do right away. I think the important part is, to keep trying and, to keep motivated. And I have enjoyed every bit of my career. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ruth. And Daniela, last but not least.
Thank you so much. I'm delighted to be here. Thank you for the invitation. So a little bit with regards to my story, I'm going to start with saying that to all those young people that perhaps feel lost and don't know who you are, where you're going, who you even want to be, that's okay. Chances are it'll come together as you live your life. So I'm going to start a little bit earlier, because at the age of 16, I was accepted with a scholarship to United World College School. At that time, there were only 7 schools of its kind, and it was a school dedicated to international peace and understanding, more than 70 countries represented, where students from all over the world attended. We discussed politics and current events. We were the future leaders. Fast forward 2 years, I graduated. I graduated with mediocre grades, and I had grossly underestimated what getting into college entailed, to the point that I didn't have a school to go into college after I graduated. I didn't have a plan B. I had absolutely no idea what I was doing. And I felt like I was completely lost at sea in the middle of a tsunami. I was ashamed because all my friends were going to Harvard, MIT, Sorbonne, Oxford, and I went home with my tail between my legs. I ended up going to a private university close to my parents' house. It consisted of 2 apartments, literally 2 apartments. After that, I did, of course, I learned my lesson. I did extremely well at university. I ended up getting into law school. I have a master's in natural resources, energies, environmental law, and a doctorate from the Faculty of Law at the University of Toronto. I'm quite proud of my career because I entered the natural resources area quite early on in my career, and I fell in love. I've had the opportunity of working in industry, government, NGOs, as well as academia. And I've had the opportunity of leading, 50 lawyers in 11 jurisdictions, and of working by myself in really small little projects. All I want to say is that it's okay to flounder, it's okay to doubt, and most importantly, it's okay to fail. It's all part of life, to take it all in stride and to always play the long game, because that's really what it's all about. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I also follow the meandering path. I grew up in Peru. I was a nerd. I wanted to study physics. I went to university to study physics. Then I switched. I met some friends who were doing a doctorate in development economics at Sussex, so I switched to economics. I completed that degree. Then my parents moved up to Canada, and I went and continued economics, did a master's degree in economics, did a master's degree in environmental studies, did my thesis in the Peruvian Amazon in the early 80s. Then I worked for a number of years, and when I was in my early 40s, I went to law school. And then I spent a year as a clerk at the Supreme Court in Ottawa. And then I had a career in where I met Daniela when she was starting her legal career in Canada. And spent a number of years working as a lawyer, doing mostly corporate finance in natural resources, mining, forestry, and so on around the world. And now I'm putting together LIAMforum. There's no such thing as failure. And if you don't try things, you don't learn. The most important thing in life, I think, is action. Just do it. And the other rule is hang around with people that share your values, that have high values. Values truly matter. Don't waste time with people that don't have values. And follow your heart. Do what really makes you passionate about. And everybody on this panel, and pretty much everybody on LIAMforum, has that in common. They're doing what they love, and they do it for passion. And it's not for money. Money comes because it's needed like a car needs fuel. But don't pursue the money. Pursue what you love, and you'll be fine. So with that, I will give the microphone to Carlos, who will speak about his passion, bring to light the Amazon, the challenges we face, and the opportunities that we hope that members of the audience will be part of the solution.
Okay, Raziel, let me then just briefly give you some ideas about the Amazon. Well, when we look what's going on in the Amazon today, in the last 1 month, we are going to see it's one of the record-breaking droughts. This drought is part of what's going on all over the world, which is the global warming, the climate change is inducing increase in the climate extremes all over the world, all types of extremes, heat waves, droughts, excessive storms. And sorry, just a second. And therefore, we have had in the Amazon severe droughts, 2005, 2010, record-breaking drought, 2015-16, 2020, and then another drought this year, which may break the record. So, of course, why we are seeing those things? Yes, this excessive number of droughts, 2 severe droughts per decade. Historically, the Amazon would have 1 drought every 2 decades associated with the equatorial Pacific El Nino events, but now 2 droughts per decade. This is all associated with global warming. And then, in addition to that, we are having increase in the last 50 years of deforestation and degradation. Before 1970s, a whole forest was there, and unfortunately, governments, Amazonian countries, governments in the 1970s, particularly starting with Brazilian government, at that time, a military dictatorship government, they moved to the Amazon the idea that the forest has no value and we have to replace the forest with commodity agricultural cattle ranches. So pastures are the main driver of deforestation in the Amazon. More than 80% of the areas in the forest are for pastures, but also some other commodities, soy, selective logging of timber. So today we have about 2 million square kilometers of the Amazon, 50% deforested, 50% degraded, mostly over Brazilian Amazon, but also in all other Amazonian countries. And therefore, what we see today is that the whole Amazon is at the edge of a tipping point. Let me explain a little bit what this tipping point is. In fact, I was the first scientist to publish in 1990, 33 years ago, the first science article showing that if we continue with deforestation, in 1990, deforestation was about 7%. Today is about 17, 18%. If we continue with deforestation, all of the southern Amazon would become a different ecosystem. It's an open, canopy, degraded ecosystem, looking like a tropical savanna, but not as biodiverse as the tropical savanna south of the Amazon, the Cerrado, or north of the Amazon, Gran Sabana, in Venezuela, Colombia. It will, and also this tropical savannas store a huge amount of carbon. So this new degraded savanna would not store much carbon, would lose most of the biodiversity. So there was something, a projection in 1990. If we continue with deforestation, we continue. Then I carry out a number of other research with PhD students, also looking at what climate change would do. And then we now today know that the synergistic combination of climate change inducing these severe droughts with deforestation, that's putting the Amazon, as I said, at the edge of the tipping point. Why is that so? Because over millions and millions, tens of millions of years since the Andes were licked, this is 40 million years ago, the Andes started being licked. The Amazon forest evolved, the geological, ecological evolution of the Amazon forest as a tropical ecosystem, very efficient in recycling water. The Amazon forest recycles a lot of water. Actually, they transpire more water during the dry season than during the wet season. So that helps reducing the length of the dry season, short dry season, and increases tremendously the rainfall. About 50% of the rainfall in the Amazon takes place because of this water recycling. And this very important climate equilibrium create the condition for the maximum biodiversity. The Amazon has 13% of all known plant and animal species. But of course, there is a huge amount of species which are not known at this point. They are being discovered every day. And very climate stability maintained in the forest. So deforestation, degradation, plus climate change is making the forest recycle much less water, increasing the temperature. For instance, degraded pasture may have a maximum temperature 5 degrees warmer than the forest. And then why we say we are at the edge of a tipping point? Because the dry season over southern Amazon, huge area from the Atlantic all the way to Bolivian Amazon, 2.3 million square kilometers, the dry season is 4 to 5 weeks lengthier today compared to 1979, in 40 years, 1 week per decade. So the dry season in southern Amazon was 3 to 4 months. Now it's already 4 to 5 months. As soon as it reaches 5 to 6 months, it will not maintain the forest, and the forest will degrade into this open canopy, degraded ecosystems. All over southern Amazon also, in addition to a lengthier dry season, the forest has become a carbon source. You know, just keep that in mind. The forest has become a carbon source. All over the planet, the forest removed something like more than 30% of all carbon dioxide that we emitted. The Amazon in the 1990s was removing more than 2 billion tons of carbon dioxide. Now, the southern Amazon has become the forest, a carbon source. So therefore, that's why we say we have really immediately to get to zero deforestation, zero forest degradation, zero fires, unlike, let's say, Canada or California or Europe, mid-latitude forests. In the Amazon, 95% of fires are man-made fires. So we have to stop fires, we have to stop deforestation, degradation. As you probably know, fortunately, in this year, deforestation is reducing in most Amazonian countries. In Brazilian Amazon, 50% reduction in deforestation in the first 9 months of the year, reducing in Colombia, reducing in Peru, in Ecuador, increasing in Bolivia. But overall deforestation is being reduced. So we have really to get to zero deforestation, forest degradation, and also getting to close to zero wildfires. So this is mandatory, and so therefore we have to save the Amazon. If we exceed the tipping point within 30 to 50 years, we are going to release something like 250 billion tons of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, making it impossible to reach the Paris Agreement targets of 1.5 degrees. So in addition to that, the recycling of water generates the so-called flying rivers. This is a huge amount of water vapor which exits the Amazon basin to the Andes, to the south of the Amazon basin, feeding the rainfall systems, the snow systems in all these areas. So it's essential, this ecosystem service. And also, as I said, keep the temperature 2-3 degrees cooler compared if you remove the forest. So that's just to say how important. So we have to, let me now finish by telling you a little bit how we have to proceed to save the Amazon. As I said, zero deforestation, degradation, wildfires. Most Amazonian countries, they committed to zero deforestation by 2030. So this is mandatory. But also we have to do some things to protect the Amazon. So I will mention two initiatives. One is a large-scale forest restoration project. We launched, I'm talking about the science panel for the Amazon. This is a science panel created in 2019 by Sustainable Development Solutions Network. And we are 250 scientists. We are putting a lot of assessment reports. And then at COP27 in Egypt last November, we launched the so-called Arcs of Restoration policy brief. The idea is to restore a huge area, southern Amazon, and along the Andes, Peru, Ecuador, and Colombia. That area along the Andes, this is not pastures for cattle ranches. This is mostly oil exploration, illegal mining. And that's the area with the maximum biodiversity in the planet, because it's in the Amazon, the area with the maximum biodiversity in the Amazon. So we need to restore that area, but also the southern Amazon. So really letting the forest regenerate, reforestation, heavily deforested areas. We are talking about a minimum area of 50 million hectares. This is 500,000 square kilometers, all over these two arcs of restoration immediately. So that would do two big ecosystem services. One, obviously, this 50 million hectare restoration with secondary forests remove more than 600 million tons of carbon dioxide per year. But also, the secondary forest will stop the forest into degradation. It will make the forest absorb carbon, reduce temperature, recycle much more water. So that's mandatory. So this is the first nature-based solution. And of course, the existence of global carbon markets may finance this. We estimated something like about $30 billion to restore this 50 million hectare. So this is the first immediate initiative. And the second one, we launched a second policy brief during the Amazon Summit last August in Belém, Brazilian Amazon, called the creation of a new social bioeconomy of healthy standing forests and flowing rivers. Healthy standing forests because we need really to maintain the forest and to see ways to make use of the tremendous biodiversity for a new social bioeconomy. Social bioeconomy because we have to value the knowledge of indigenous people and the local communities. And the healthy standing forest is not monoculture, and also healthy flowing rivers because pesticides used like commodity agriculture, but mostly mercury being used by illegal gold mining is leading to the death of a large number of rivers in the Amazon. So we have to have a healthy flowing rivers as well. And also most hydropower dams, they also disturb a lot the ecology of aquatic systems, biodiversity of aquatic systems. So we have to develop this new social bioeconomy. And why? Then I will finish by just reminding that the indigenous people came to the Amazon 12,000 years ago, and they always maintain the forest, although for thousands of years they practiced slash and burning agriculture, but they always recover the forest. So in these scientific advancements of indigenous people, they domesticated more than 50 trees, for instance, and also many plants. For instance, they developed more than 700 varieties of manioc, 1,300 varieties of cocoa, just to give you two simple examples of their science. They also developed so-called dark earth. The Amazon soil is very nutrient poor because it's millions and millions of years of heavy rainfall washing away the soil. So this is to learn with indigenous people, certainly, and then to develop this new social bioeconomy with agroforestry systems. The indigenous people created agroforestry systems thousands of years ago, but of course now we can merge our science with the indigenous knowledge in local communities for these agroforestry systems with hundreds of products. Just to give you an idea, indigenous people in the Amazon, they use more than 2,000 products, medicinal plants, food systems, etc., and we certainly remove all these potential for one product pasture, one product soy crops. So so that's the idea. And finally, I just want to say, of course, in the modern days of today, we have to add value to these forest products. So we have to do a green economy. We call a green bio-industrialization. So we are developing two projects in the Amazon. One is called Amazonia 4.0, which is to do capacity development of local communities in agroforestry systems to add value, to industrialize products of the biodiversity, cocoa, acai berry, Brazil nuts, many other products. Also, there is a tremendous potential in genome sequencing to do DNA of all the plants and animals to learn the potential of this new 21st century industry, genome sequencing, and also so that's the idea. And also a second last point I want to raise, we are developing a study, a feasibility study, to create in the Amazon the so-called AMIT, Amazonia Institute of Technology. We are putting together a plan why it's so important to create, let's say, an MIT-like Institute of Technology in the Amazon, pan-Amazonia, in ideally many Amazonian countries, not in only one. It's with very modern laboratories, educational infrastructure to do capacity development of thousands of students a year for this new social bioeconomy. So we are finishing this feasibility study by January, when we hope to get support by all Amazonian countries, by all development banks, by the private sector to construct this Amazon Institute of Technology. So, I end just by saying, really, we have to do immediately to stop deforestation, degradation, fires, and then to find these nature-based solutions to save the Amazon. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Carlos. That was a wonderful sweep of knowledge about the Amazon. And I love that you ended with the idea to create an MIT of the Amazon. And I remind everybody that MIT started as an agricultural school originally. That was the original. So everybody thinks MIT, high tech, and so on. No, it started to improve agronomy and the fundamentals of life and society. So hopefully somebody who's listening to this will be able to intervene, and I hope part of what we're doing here is to help you advance that project because it's extremely important. Because of time, I will ask Ruth to give her presentation. Ruth's organization has the ability to observe and assist in the monitoring and compliance in the Amazon. So Ruth, please go ahead.
Thank you. Can you see my screen, right? Perfect. Thank you. And I am going to, okay. All right. So yes, I work at the World Resources Institute. We have two projects, two initiatives. One is Global Forest Watch, which is basically a platform that makes satellite forest monitoring information available to anybody to improve decision-making processes to protect and manage forest sustainably in the world. And in our online platform, our data and products, people can analyze and visualize how trees are disappearing from the world. The other project that I work is the Forest Legality Initiative. Now we have a new name, but in my short presentation, I'm going to talk a bit about how these two initiatives, so two lines of work, come together to combat deforestation and stop deforestation, which is something that Dr. Nobre mentioned, right? So this little polygon in the map is a community in the Peruvian Amazon. It's called Buen Jardín del Cayaru. It's in the part of Peru that's sandwiched between Colombia and Brazil. And the closest towns, even though this community is an indigenous community, is in Peru, the closest towns, cities are Leticia in Colombia and Tabatinga in Brazil. This is an area that over the past few years has experienced a lot of deforestation, particularly, and there are a lot of indigenous territories, particularly because invaders come and clear forests to plant coca, which then is sold to or traded in Colombia. A few years ago, an organization called Rainforest Foundation US brought our forest monitoring data to a number of communities, and the community people started organizing themselves to look at the data that we were generating, where there are events of deforestation, organize themselves to patrol their territory and collect information about what were the causes behind these tree cover loss. So these are just some pictures. The information, our satellite monitoring information gets to the communities through mobile applications, but also through, printed maps, memory sticks, whatnot. And again, the communities organize themselves. They go to the areas where the deforestation alerts are occurring, and they document what is happening. Sometimes this information is used to create legal complaints, and this is a screenshot of a documentary that Vice News did following a law enforcement activity. This is a picture of the prosecutor where, you know, the community members are showing the areas where they are going to visit. And with that, the communities, Buen Jardín de Callaru and other communities that are doing this work have stopped deforestation. If you can see, remember, this is the polygon of Buen Jardín del Callaru, and this is another community where there is no monitoring, patrolling by the community members. And you can see in pink are the number of deforestation alerts. These are areas that we have detected there are strict cover laws based on the interpretation of satellite imagery. And you can see the number of deforestation alerts and events versus the number of alerts in this community, Buen Jardín del Callaru, where the community members are using our data to patrol and protect their forests. Last year, and these are just screenshots of, you know, the story, more details, and you can visit the Global Forest Watch booth, virtual booth, and there are the links to this story. But researchers from Columbia University in the US did an analysis of the deforestation outcomes. And they found that in a year, the communities like Buen Jardín del Callaru that are using monitoring data to patrol and protect their territories, they half deforestation by half. There was a reduction of 50% of deforestation in the communities that do the patrolling and monitoring versus the communities where there is no monitoring. So this is a positive, you know, story. There are challenges scaling it up, but it's a way to start. And these are just the links of the two initiatives that WRI has, globalforestwatch.org, forestlegality.org, and the link to Rainforest Foundation US, who is the partner in Peru that is working directly with the communities. Thank you very much.
That was wonderful, Ruth. We will come back to all the themes. Let's Jana faces also issues of legality, and maybe she could tell us her story, and then we'll have it listen, hear what Daniela has to say in terms of what suggestions she may have as to how to ensure that we start moving towards a path of legality and conservation. So, Jana, please.
Sure. One of the questions that I get a lot, people ask me a lot, is it even possible to reverse the damage done to the Amazon rainforest? And what I tell them is this: while humans have damaged and changed the Amazon, we also possess the ability to restore it. With the right scientific approach and a unified international coordinated effort, the rainforest can recover. But we need to act now, and we need to focus on some key strategies. And one of the key strategies that we focus on at Amazon Rainforest Conservancy is reestablishing connectivity by joining undisturbed forest regions. And Amazon Rainforest Conservancy has an opportunity to achieve this within the valley between the two mountain ranges of the Cordillera Escalera Regional Park in Peru. When the Peruvian government created this park as a conservation zone in 2005, they omitted the valley from the conservation zone because they were unwilling to confront the families who were living there. And it's interesting because these families were primarily growing coca for cocaine production. But in the 1980s, the United States intervened as part of their war on drugs. And in partnership with the Peruvian Air Force, they flew their planes over the entire valley, spraying chemicals on all the coca, destroying all the coca crops. Then the valley's residents were given a choice: accept enough coffee to plant 2.5 acres, or accept a single cow. And the majority of the families living in the valley opted for the cow. And then they proceeded to clear the forests and sow grass, plant grass across the valley to feed their cattle. But this shift posed a significant threat to the region's jaguars, because now the jaguars passing through the valley from one mountain to the other were shot on sight by the ranchers who feared for their livestock. And this continues to happen today. And this is a huge problem because there are only an estimated 15,000 jaguars left in the wild, and their last refuge is in the Amazon rainforest. But there is hope to the story. Many of those cattle ranchers are now aging, and their children are less interested in cattle ranching and more interested in living and working in town. So at Amazon Rainforest Conservancy, we saw this as an opportunity to buy land from the retiring ranchers and create a corridor that will provide a network of pathways to allow these magnificent cats to travel safely across the valley. And we launched this project in 2022. And so far we have purchased 6 parcels of land, and we are currently raising money to expand our jaguar corridor, because we want to ensure the continued survival and growth of the jaguar population in this region. And we know we're making an impact because our camera traps have captured footage of a healthy jaguar transversing through our land. Our dream is to turn the entire valley, which covers over 8,000 acres, into a conservation corridor. It is a big dream, but as I say, it all starts 1 acre at a time.
Jana, thank you. We are running short of time. We'll go a little bit beyond our allotted time. Daniela, you can speak for a minute or two, and then I'll let Carlos wrap it up.
Of course, thank you. All I wanted to add, and I come at this from a pure legal perspective, and I apologize, I have puppies in the background, but I come at this from a purely legal perspective. And of course, the complexity with regards to the jurisdictional issues associated to the Amazon is very complicated. Due to the many countries, I am really sorry about the book. But what I wanted to say is 2 things. I think that first of all, the way that governments need to act includes a regulatory framework that contains the traditional command and control measures, which relate to the stopping of illegal action, which of course is necessary, and the funding of those regulatory measures. It's not sufficient enough to have the law. You need to actually have funding to have the guards on the ground. You need to have people on the ground and able to do that. So you have the traditional measures from a legal perspective. But I think that from a moving forward perspective, I'm looking at initiatives that Dr. Nobre mentioned, for example, social bioeconomy. In order for you to be able to get these things off the ground, there needs to be innovative measures that include participatory models of decision making. And these participatory models need to include communities, indigenous peoples, governments, industries, NGOs. It needs to have a new vision of how decisions are made. And I just want to finalize by saying I had the opportunity of being in Belém just now on the Amazon conference, and I was in Manaus last year. And we cannot forget that the Amazon is a complex, not only from a scientific perspective, but also from a social perspective. Manaus has a population of 2.3 million people. Belém, which is a gateway to the Amazon, has 1.5 million people. We need to make sure that this is how that they are also encompassed in any new measures when we talk about the ecosystem that is the forest. Those are my comments.
Thank you, Daniela. Carlos, please.
Yes, thank you a lot. Very good information we got from the 3 of them. I just want to place one thing that Jana raised, but I think it's a big challenge. I did not mention in my talk, but as we all know, the consumption of cocaine is growing all over the world. And the production of cocaine in the Amazon, mostly Colombia, but also Peru, is increasing. And the cocaine, the drug trafficking organizers, the organized crime, they are funding the illegal mining, land grabbing, all those things, growing over the last decades, and particularly in the last several years. So I think, when we talk about getting to zero deforestation, degradation, illegal mining, all those things, there is this big challenge: what to do in terms of cocaine. If cocaine continues to be illegal, but consumption growing all over the planet, particularly among youth, I see a big challenge to save the Amazon. So I would like just to say we have to find solutions for this issue, because otherwise the organized crime in the Amazon is so powerful, is so tremendously powerful. Anyway, I just want to say that, but just to finish by saying, yes, we certainly can move towards this new economy, the social bioeconomy of standing forests and flowing rivers, that has the potential to benefit all. There's 47 million people. Daniela also mentioned this, what's going on in the urban cities in the Amazon. There's a lot of poverty. Manaus has 60% of the population is extremely poor. So we have to create this new economy to give the opportunity for all the population, not only the rural population, but also the urban population, to find a different way of knowledge. But I'm optimistic. I think that's, if you ask all the Amazonian population, they want to move in that direction. So let's fight together to combat the organized crime and to find ways for this new economy.
Thank you very much. So I'll just finish by saying, we have the tools. We need the young people to come and join. Please, if you're interested, write to Carlos or to Jana or to Ruth or to Daniela. We need lawyers, we need botanists, we need advocates. We need to collaborate with the military. To law enforcement is important, but the opportunity is there. The place is wonderful, and the people, from my experience, are wonderful people, are very warm people who live in the area, and they care about nature and the environment and the surroundings. So with that, I wrap up this wonderful panel. I thank you very much, and we'll continue with LIAMforum. Obrigado, thank you. And
thank you. Muchas gracias a todos.
Let's stay for a few seconds.
Thank you.